This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 29th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy day on the way. High 55. Tonight and overnight showers, low 51. And then Thursday, rain on and off throughout the day. The high going to be 61. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 44 and clear in Scarsdale up in Westchester County. 40 and clear in West Milford over in New Jersey. And it's 45 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
All eyes are on Jamaica after Melissa moves out. The men who want to be mayor take shots at each other on the campaign trail. Neighbors say they know the woman found dead on a Harlem street. Some local TSA workers say they can't put food on the table. And why are some local movie theaters making a comeback? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Hurricane Melissa has moved on and out of Jamaica, leaving some serious devastation behind. Maybe you've seen video of this. Streets just completely flooded, houses totally destroyed, torn apart, power out to more than 500,000. The Prime Minister says his nation is now searching for victims, working to get things up and running again.
Thankfully, the international community has come on board in a big way, and we have commitments of support already established. So we should be able to launch our recovery process very quickly after the storm is past.
Life-threatening flooding, several feet of rain, maximum sustained winds, 165 miles per hour yesterday.
We have over 1,800 shelters across the country. And as far as I'm aware, for Kingston, all our shelters are virtually opened now.
Yeah, those shelters, a lot of them filled. Others, just tried to ride this thing out in the storm, and so they think there's going to be a number of deaths. We don't have a death toll yet. There's lots of tourists. Jamaica, of course, a big tourist destination, especially from the East Coast here. They're stuck. This woman taking to TikTok, she's stuck in Montego Bay.
Pray that we get home. Like at this point, at the end of the prayer, right before you say amen, I pray that they all can get a flight home.
The Prime Minister this morning saying that the entire country is a disaster area. The storm has scared up crocodiles, if that's not enough. New York, of course, is home to the largest Jamaican community in the country. And Jamaicans here know that their loved ones back in Jamaica are going to be in need of everyday essentials in the wake of the hurricane. So they've been gathering up those things over the last couple days, and some cases have already sent them off.
So our intention is to send containers containing primarily zinc and lumber in one container, and another container will contain food and supplies to keep people.
So many of the houses in Jamaica made from wood. That's why so many of them will be destroyed from those high winds, the rain, the flooding. The first donation being sent or has been sent includes feminine products, first aid kits. Some of that arrived just in the first couple hours after Melissa was totally out of Jamaica.
It was terrible. It was the most horrific experience I've ever encountered in my life. There are places in Jamaica that don't have concrete homes, and I just fear that all those homes are no longer there.
Yeah, and all night you had people in the Jamaican community here trying to reach loved ones back home, and for many of them it was unsuccessful.
We're in Rockford, to be exact, Rockford, Kingston. So hopefully everybody's doing good down there, and whatever help we can send them, we'll deal with it.
Yeah, we'll hear more from some members of the Jamaican community coming up after 5:30. Hurricane Melissa now taking aim at Cuba. Not as bad of a storm, but still intense. The wind's 125 miles per hour. It's now considered a Category 3 as it sits over Cuba at this hour. 5:04, on a much lighter note, now we have a World Series all of a sudden. The Blue Jays bounce back from that heartbreaking loss. Remember when the game went till 3 in the morning last night? Well, 2 nights ago, Cuomo. Well, they won last night 6-2 over Shohei Ohtani. You thought he might, seem like a guy that nobody could beat, but they did beat him. So Blue Jays back in the World Series. It's tied at 2 apiece. Blue Jays manager John Schneider, all excited about that.
He made pitches, man. It was fun to watch him navigate that. It's I'm really happy for him for the last year and a half journey he's been on to go out there and do that. That was awesome.
Talking about Vladimir Guerrero had another great night.
I get that it's easy to write Ohtani versus Guerrero. To us, it's Toronto versus Los Angeles, but that swing was huge.
Guerrero has had, I think it's 7 home runs in the postseason. Boy, he's been doing well. So that series tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tonight in L.A. Of course, Justin L. is going to have a whole lot more on the World Series coming up at 5:15. Bring it back home up to Harlem. Police investigating after an 18-year-old shot inside a building in Harlem last night. This was 2660 8th Avenue, about 6:45. He was shot in the stomach, taken to Harlem Hospital. The last word we got, listed in critical condition right now. Police sources telling the shooting appears to be gang-related. Early voting in the race for mayor continues as tens of thousands of New Yorkers have already cast their ballot. It was another good day yesterday. In fact, the numbers from voting on Tuesday matched those from the weekend. Some 70,000 people voted. That was big. So now we have... It's about 300,000 people have already voted. And here's what they're saying when they're going to the polls as they make their decision who they're going to vote for mayor.
I only know about Mamdani, right? Yeah, and somebody did encourage me to vote for him, but I haven't thought about it. It's like, what's going to happen? Is there going to be any change, or they just keep saying things and nothing happens?
To be honest, I don't know nothing about Mamdani. I didn't know anything before the pre-election until he came out and Cuomo didn't win.
The last poll we have is that Suffolk University poll out of Boston that has Zoran Mamdani up by 10 points over Andrew Cuomo. Curtis all the way back in last place at 11%. And so people have seen those numbers as they go to cast their ballots.
Affordable housing, keeping the streets low on crime. That's really basically it.
The homelessness. This is a crisis.
I was born and raised in New York City, and I'm here a long time, and I work here as well. I'd like to see safety as an issue. That's very important to me, especially traveling and commuting. Housing, again, very important.
I'm a Democratic Socialist. I'd support Mamdani, no question about it.
I'm deciding between either Mamdani or maybe Sliwa. I just feel like what's been going on now just hasn't been working.
Okay, again, 70,000 voted yesterday, 297,000 in all so far. Oh, by the way, Governor David Paterson, yesterday he finally endorsed Andrew Cuomo.
Paterson making the announcement alongside Cuomo and current Mayor Eric Adams at a campaign event in the Bronx Tuesday. Paterson says he believes Cuomo is the best equipped to lead the city, citing Cuomo's experience as governor. Cuomo is battling Democrat Zoran Mamdani and Republican Curtis Sliwa in the race. Recent polls find the race tightening, although Mamdani maintains a sizable lead.
WABC News Time 509. Let's head over to New Jersey, where there's that tight race for governor. Democrat Mikey Sherrill spending a lot of time in southern New Jersey, where many believe the race will be won. Southern New Jersey has swung back and forth during these gubernatorial elections. When Phil Murphy ran the first time, they went in his direction. When he ran the second time in 2021, Southern Jersey, or a lot of it, went for Jack Ciattarelli. So Mikey Sherrill's hoping to pick up Southern Jersey, and that's why she has spent a lot of time there.
I have a plan to drive down energy costs, healthcare costs, housing costs, really drive affordability into the state at the state level, saving time and money by cutting through red tape.
And she did have a fair amount of voters who showed up at a rally yesterday.
What is happening to this country is disgusting. We need rules and laws.
The rule of law is dissolved in Washington. I hope we keep it in New Jersey.
Republican Jack Ciattarelli says he's feeling very confident in this last 6 days. He was on with Sid and Friends in the Morning yesterday.
We got 1 week to victory, Sid. The energy up and down the state is great. Picked up another endorsement from another prominent Democrat. And I really feel the energy out there. So we're in great shape, but we'll finish strong and deliver a win.
Now, Cheryl's campaign claims they have the momentum. Of course, the Chitterelli campaign would make the same argument. But here's what they're saying, and take this with a grain of salt, because it's 6 days before Election Day, and you just throw everything against the wall hoping that it'll stick so you win the election. But she claims as of Monday, her campaign anyway, that they have a firewall of about 201,000 votes. That's including early voting and absentee vote by mail ballots, and that going into Election Day, they'll be ahead by 201,000 votes. Again, take that with a grain of salt, but that's what they've been telling me over the last 24 hours. 5:11. President Trump says the U.S. is the hottest nation in the world. He is in South Korea today.
Because we should have the lowest interest rates of any country, because without us, there are no other countries, really. I mean, the whole thing falls apart.
The president speaking at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation CEO Summit in South Korea today, saying the U.S. economy has improved dramatically since last year. The president touting his administration's efforts to create American jobs, expand AI infrastructure, and bring down inflation. He also used this event to take shots at Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, calling him incompetent and promising to appoint someone new when Powell's term ends.
You know, in the old days, when you announced good news, the stock market went up. You announced good news, the stock market would go up. Now when you announce good news, the stock market goes down.
The president, also talking about Toyota, says they're committed to building new plants in the U.S. now.
Yesterday I was with Mr. Toyota in Japan, and he's just announced he's going to spend, they are going to spend $10 billion, and they're going to build new car plants, and they're going to build them in numerous states.
And the president signed this agreement in Japan before he left there to speed up cooperation on the processing of critical minerals and rare earth minerals. Correspondent Mitch McCann's in Japan.
The agreement to supply the United States with more rare earths is a win for Washington, coming shortly after it signed a similar deal with Australia valued at $8.5 billion. China, the world's largest supplier of rare earths, has tightened its exports in recent months.
And President Trump and the Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi signing this agreement, which outlines what they're called cooperative efforts to accelerate the processing of critical minerals. Rare earth minerals are really important to the U.S.
They're critical for the United States because they're used to make products such as smartphones, computers, wind turbines, and electric vehicles. The White House says the deal signed between President Trump and Japan's new Prime Minister Takaichi is intended to help both countries achieve greater resilience and security in their critical minerals and rare earth supply chains.
The president's multi-day trip to Asia includes this high-stakes sit-down with Chinese President Xi. That's going to take place tomorrow, where the president is expected to push for a new trade deal with the Chinese. 5:13. Let's bring it back home. It is day 29 of the government shutdown. Democrats refusing to debate ending funding bill that does not include an extension of health care subsidies.
Millions and millions of Americans under the ACA are going to see their health care premiums rise.
California Congressman Ted Lieu there, part of a Capitol Hill panel. Democrats warning that without Obamacare credits, many families would go without medications that they say will put more of a burden on hospitals. Now, Republicans argue the president's big, beautiful bill is written in a way that makes sure taxpayer dollars are not spent on health care for illegal immigrants. And that's most of what's tying up this deal here.
In my district, analysis shows that a family of four could see their premiums rise by more than $12,000 annually.
That's more from Ted Lieu. Millions of Americans feeling the impact as the government shutdown stretches to the 4-week mark. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, he was at LaGuardia yesterday as air traffic controllers missed their first full paycheck yesterday.
Controllers and those other critical employees need our government to be open, and they need to be paid.
There were more than 1,000 flight delays just yesterday. Meanwhile, the Transportation Secretary addressing safety concerns and flight delays due to air traffic controlling staffing issues, as you might guess. Some of these folks who are not getting paid have been calling in sick.
If we have issues, we will slow it down. We will stop it. And so I don't want anyone to think that it's not safe. It's just that you may not be traveling on the schedule that you anticipated because of this government shutdown. We have the safest airspace in the world, not because of the antiquated equipment that we have that runs our system. It's because we have the best air traffic controllers, the best trained, the smartest people in our airspace controlling it. And we're blessed to have them.
And the other big issue, and we'll get to that in a moment, is that a lot of Americans come the weekend could lose their food stamp benefits. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start here in the NBA out in Milwaukee. The Knicks dropped to 500 on the young season after a 121-111 loss to the Bucks. They built a 12-point halftime lead that was ultimately erased thanks to Giannis Antetokounmpo's 37 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Jalen Brunson scored 36 points, but hurt himself midway through the fourth quarter, appearing to injure his leg initially while scrambling for a loose ball. Moments later, after remaining on the floor, Brunson was dribbling behind the three-point line near Milwaukee's bench when he fell backward in clear pain and lost the ball. He did stay in the game after a timeout, but the Knicks couldn't slow Milwaukee's momentum. They remained without Mitchell Robinson, who hasn't played yet this season, as they continue, the Knicks, that is, monitor his injured left ankle. Up next for him, they'll visit the Bulls in Chicago come Friday night. Tonight on the hardwood, the Nets back in action. They'll welcome in the Atlanta Hawks. That's a 7:30 p.m. tip-off there. To the ice in Vancouver, Jonathan Quick made 23 saves, and the Rangers blanked the Canucks 2-0. Then Captain JT Miller's returned to Vancouver because Zibanejad scored late in the first period off a give-and-go with Will Cooley, and Sam Carrick added an empty net goal with 93 seconds left. Adam Fox had 2 assists. It was Quick's first shutout this season and the 64th of his career, tying Rangers great Henrik Lundqvist for 17th place in NHL history. Miller played his first game in Vancouver since being traded back to New York, where he did begin his career by the Canucks at the end of January. The win snapped a 3-game skid for New York, which entered with just 1 victory over its last 7 games. They were, the Rangers that is, outscored 22-12 during that stretch. Up next for the Rangers, they'll play the Edmonton Oilers a visit tomorrow night. In Boston, the Islanders lost 5-2 to the Bruins, suffering their first loss in regulation since starting the season 0-3. Bo Horvat had a goal and an assist for the Isles. Kyle Palmieri also scored, and Elias Sorokin finished with 17 saves. Up next for the Islanders, they'll visit the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow. And in Colorado, the Devils fell 8-4 to the Avalanche, snapping their 8-game win streak, which tied a franchise record for the most victories in the first 9 games of a season. Jack Hughes, Dougie Hamilton, Dawson Mercer, and Steven Neeson scored for New Jersey. Jacob Markstrom had 34 saves. Up next for the Devs, they'll be at San Jose tomorrow night. And on the diamond, the Blue Jays beat the Dodgers 6-2 in Game 4 of the World Series last night. That series is now knotted at 2 games apiece. It's turning into a better series than I anticipated. Game 5 tonight at 8 p.m. again from Los Angeles. That's your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 520. It is day 29 of the government shutdown. I told you about the TSA workers, and there's fear that the SNAP benefits could run out come the weekend, which would mean 40 million Americans who use food stamps to pay for groceries would not get those benefits. And so California, one of several states, including New York, that filed this lawsuit that's urging the Trump administration to continue food stamp benefits even as the government shutdown continues. Here's California Attorney General Rob Bonta.
41 million Americans, red states and blue states, folks who rely on SNAP to put food on the table, even though there are billions of dollars in contingency funds and other funds that could be used to provide SNAP benefits during the shutdown.
Bonta and Governor Gavin Newsom, of course, the California governor, says Congress has $6 billion of contingency funds for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program through September 2026. So they say should dip into that.
They're doing this on purpose. It is deliberate. It is intentional. They have the funds. They're just not using them. They have forced states to scramble to try and clean up the federal government's mess. And worst of all, they've left 41 million Americans unsure of where their next meal will come from.
And we're seeing some more people showing up at food pantries. And coming up at 5:30 or a little bit after 5:30, we'll hear from some TSA workers who say now they're worried about putting food on the table. You know, those workers don't get paid a whole lot. 5:21. While we're talking about shutdown, visitors to federal parks might want to avoid using public restrooms.
Many across the U.S. haven't been cleaned since the government shutdown began weeks ago, so the facilities are a little worse for the wear. Some parks, such as Rock Creek in Washington, D.C., have set up porta-johns. Sanitation crews from the National Park Service are among the 9,000 plus of the agency's 14,500 employees furloughed. I'm Jim Roop.
522 House Republicans asking for the Justice Department now to launch an investigation into the use of an auto pen by the Biden administration.
In a report released on Tuesday, the GOP-led House Oversight Committee said despite past presidents using auto pens, former President Biden was cognitively impaired, and his staff took advantage with a laissez-faire approach. Chair James Comer asked the Department of Health's Board of Medicine to investigate Biden's doctor. The report labeled any action as void if there's no evidence that Biden himself took executive action. The report doesn't name a singular incident that the auto pen was used without Biden's authorization. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Let's go overseas. Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu ordering powerful strikes in the Gaza Strip. Correspondent Matt Bradley reports this could further damage an already fragile ceasefire with Hamas.
We don't know whether or not this is going to be a full break of this ceasefire deal that has already just been hanging on by a thread. But it does seem that we've seen this kind of thing before, renewed violence on both sides.
Netanyahu has accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire after hostage remains were identified yesterday as the same of a deceased hostage who was previously recovered from Gaza back in 2023. Israel has also accused Hamas of opening fire on its troops in the southern part of the region.
They also have been frustrated with Hamas's reluctance or inability to hand over 13 remaining hostage bodies still in the Gaza Strip. The Israelis have said repeatedly that Hamas knows where the bodies are, but Hamas and even President Trump have acknowledged that finding those bodies amidst Gaza's destruction will be very, very difficult.
Israeli officials reportedly showed evidence to U.S. officials that proved a ceasefire violation, while Trump administration officials say they didn't see it as a breach and urge Israel to not take any radical action. While we're overseas, police in Paris say the two suspects arrested in the heist at the Louvre Museum refusing to cooperate with investigators won't reveal where the stolen jewels are. Correspondent Rafe Sanchez reports two accomplices are still on the loose today.
Police are saying it is encouraging that the arrests happened here in Paris because it suggests that the outstanding gang members potentially were not able to flee the country, and so just possibly the jewels are also still here in the French capital.
But authorities are concerned that the historic items that include a necklace Napoleon gave to his second wife may have been chopped up to make it easier to sell their precious stones, and they're hoping to recover this stolen jewelry before it's too late.
There are growing fears that these historic items, including a necklace given by Napoleon to his second wife, potentially could have been chopped up into their component precious stones. People here in the Diamond District tell us that would greatly reduce their value, but it would potentially make it easier to sell. And so the clock is really ticking now. Investigators racing against time to try to find those treasures before it's too late.
Yeah, and so far, no sign of those two accomplices.
An official tells us today they are refusing to cooperate. They are not giving any information about their accomplices. Remember, there are at least two gang members still on the run, and they are not saying anything about where those stolen treasures may be hidden.
525, let's bring it back home. Federal Reserve widely expected to cut interest rates today. The Fed kicked off its two-day meeting in D.C. yesterday. The group has indicated it'll announce a cut following a string of poor labor market reports coupled with news that inflation has slowed. The Fed is expected to approve a second consecutive quarter percentage point quote, for 2025, the Fed's cut has a trickle-down effect on consumers, lowering mortgage, credit card, and auto loan interest rates. 526, Texas's 2 senators filing an immigration bill yesterday that would ban the release of unaccompanied kids to the care of those who are also in the country illegally. It's something that officials have been warning about.
The shortcomings leave children vulnerable to exploitation, trafficking, forced labor, or involvement in criminal activities.
That's Joseph Kafari. He's with Homeland Security. He says that under the Biden administration, nearly 500,000 children were released to sponsors. Many of them, he said, did not list addresses. Kafari says that that's awfully frightening to them.
More than 31,000 releases, addresses of sponsors were blank, undeliverable, or missing apartment numbers.
So he says that's not going to happen under the Trump administration.
More than 43,000 who were served with notices to appear failed to actually appear for their scheduled court date.
And that's why they're implementing these new rules. And while we're down in Texas, they're suing the makers of Tylenol, the state Attorney General Ken Paxton, repeating claims that were made by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, saying that the use of the pain reliever by pregnant moms leads to a significant increased risk of autism and other disorders. So they're suing Texas's Tylenol now.
We're suing Johnson & Johnson for the distribution of Tylenol without disclosing the potential side effects.
The lawsuit against Johnson & Johnson suggests Tylenol was marketed as safe for pregnant women, violating Texas's consumer protection laws.
For the distribution of Tylenol without disclosing potential side effects of that medicine.
Not clear what would happen with this lawsuit, because last month the World Health Organization wrote that there's no currently conclusive scientific evidence showing a link between Tylenol and autism.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 29th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy day on the way. The high going to be 55. Tonight and overnight showers, low 51. And then Thursday, rain on and off throughout the day. The high 61. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 44 clear in Scarsdale up in Westchester County. 40 and clear in West Milford over in New Jersey. And it's 45 and clear right outside our Midtown studio. WABC News Time 539. We're just seeing the pictures of devastation out of Jamaica as Melissa moves out. 500,000 people this morning without power. Homes just completely destroyed. So many wooden structures there could not survive the high winds, the relentless rain yesterday. The Prime Minister there saying that the government has not received any confirmed storm-related fatalities, but given the strength of the hurricane, the extent of the damage, they're expecting there will be some loss of life. Back here in New York, where it is the largest Jamaican community outside of Jamaica, lots of people spending the overnight trying to get in touch with loved ones. With the power out and all the storm damage, that has proved to be pretty frustrating.
Not even freaking calling now. Right now, not like now they are Jamaica, you know. 50% or 60% of Jamaica is without electricity. WhatsApp is just saying calling.
Yeah, that woman trying all night, no luck. Meanwhile, the community, others across New York raising money, putting together supplies to ship to Jamaica. Some of that was going to land there as soon as possible because they knew it was going to be bad.
Jamaica is a resilient set of people, because even 1988 I was in the waters in Jamaica, just a play up on the street when Gilbert are gone. We're resilient. We're going to bounce back.
Yeah, this was much worse than Gilbert.
My prayers and thoughts goes out with all Jamaican people, all people that's on the island, all people that's visiting the island. I really pray for them. That's all I could do right now.
Yeah, so we're seeing, like I said, the damage, and I imagine in the coming hours we'll get more of that, but it does not look good. After devastating Jamaica, Melissa now taking aim at Cuba, but the latest data from the National Hurricane Center shows the monster storm has weakened. I mean, it's still bad. It's a Category 3 now, maximum sustained winds of 120 125 miles per hour. It is not going to hit the mainland of U.S., though we'll see some of the side effects, no doubt, from this storm in the coming days. 541 out to the campaign for mayor. Curtis Lewa, he was out yesterday in the subway station, as he has been, talking to commuters, trying to convince them to pull the lever for him, reminding those supporters to take part in early voting, which has been huge, by the way, over the last couple days.
I got to get my vote out. So I'm not helping Mamdani. I'm not helping Cuomo. I'm helping myself to become the next mayor of the city of New York.
Andrew Cuomo making an appearance yesterday at a senior center up in the Bronx with him. Mayor Adams and former Governor David Paterson by his side. They were talking about Zoran Mamdani and some of the promises he's made to voters, and they say those promises will be impossible to keep.
Can the mayor freeze the rent?
No.
Can the mayor provide a free bus?
No.
Can the mayor raise state taxes?
No.
None of it is real. None of it can be done.
Mayor Adams by his side saying the same thing. None of this, he says, can be done.
Nothing could be more painful than someone promising you something they can't deliver. Mayors don't have control of free buses. Mayor cannot freeze your rent. What mayors can do is keep you safe.
And there's still some fallout from that 9/11 story that Zoran Mamdani told last week about his aunt, depending on what you call aunts or aunts, that, you remember the story he told at the end of last week that she feared taking the subway in the weeks and months after the 9/11 attacks, getting stares from fellow commuters? Well, it ended up, it wasn't his aunt, it was his cousin. So he had to retract part of that story. Here's how it sounded last week.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt, who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
So it wasn't his aunt, it was his father's cousin. So it was interesting. He was making an appearance yesterday on the Mega 97 morning show, and they asked him about this, and it led to a little bit of an uncomfortable moment for Zoran Mamdani.
So how can you convince New Yorkers if that is the type of person that you are, in other words, that you don't tell the truth?
Well, it's not a lie. My father's cousin is my aunt. That's how I referred to her growing up my whole life, Zerafui. What I appreciate about this moment right now is you're giving me the opportunity to actually tell the truth.
Yeah, and then you had this moment yesterday, former Governor David Paterson endorsing Andrew Cuomo in the race for mayor with just now, 6 days to go. Paterson made the announcement alongside Cuomo and current Mayor Eric Adams. And Curtis Lewa, he says he finds this all entertaining because he says that Governor Paterson has basically endorsed almost everybody in the race now.
David Paterson, do me a favor. You are the political kiss of death. Do not endorse me, because if somehow you did, I would throw that endorsement right back at you. He's made 7 endorsements in one election cycle. Why would you take the guy seriously?
Okay, so 70,000 voted yesterday. Huge number. That was as big as over the weekend in early voting. 297,000 total since early voting began over the weekend. President Trump, he's appealing to his so-called New York hush money conviction now.
This dates back to the case brought against Trump in connection to adult film participant Stormy Daniels, as a Manhattan jury found him guilty of making a payment to her near the 2016 election because she claimed to have a story to sell regarding an affair. The argument was it should have been considered a campaign expense. Trump's attorneys say the case never should have happened and should be overturned because it was political in nature. A request was also filed to make it a federal case so Trump can appeal under the grounds of presidential immunity. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
It is day 29 of the government shutdown. TSA workers now missing their first paycheck. We're going to hear from some of them coming up in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. And here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start on the hardwood out in Milwaukee. The Knicks dropped to 500 on the young season after a 121-111 loss to the Bucks. The Knicks built a 12-point lead at halftime that was ultimately race thanks to Giannis Antetokounmpo's 37 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Jalen Brunson scored 36, but hurt himself midway through the fourth quarter, appearing to injure his leg initially while scrambling for a loose ball. He would remain in the game after a timeout, but the Knicks couldn't slow down Milwaukee's momentum. They remained without Mitchell Robinson, who hasn't played yet this season, as the Knicks continue to monitor his injured left ankle. Up next for New York, they'll visit the Bulls in Chicago come Friday night. Tonight, the Brooklyn Nets back in action. They will host the Atlanta Hawks. That is a 7:30 p.m. tip-off. Head to the ice triple-header last night here locally in Vancouver. Jonathan Quick made 23 saves, and the Rangers blanked the Canucks 2-0 in Captain JT Miller's return to Vancouver. Zibanejad scored late in the first period off a give-and-go with Cooley, and Sam Carrick added an empty net goal with just about a minute and a half left. Adam Fox had 2 assists. It was Quick's first shutout this season and the 64th of his career, tying Rangers great Henrik Lundqvist for 17th place in NHL history. Miller played his first game in Vancouver since being traded back to New York by the Canucks at the end of January. The win snapped a 3-game skid for New York, which entered with just 1 victory over its last 7 games. Rangers were outscored 22-12 during that stretch. Up next for the Rangers, they'll pay the Edmonton Oilers a visit tomorrow night. In Boston, the Islanders lost 5-2 to the Bruins, suffering their first loss in regulation since starting the season 0-3. But Horvat had a goal and an assist for the Islanders. Kyle Palmieri also scored, and Ilya Sorokin finished with 17 saves. Up next for the Isles, they'll visit the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow. And out in Colorado, the Devils fell 8-4 to the Avalanche, snapping their 8-game win streak, which tied a franchise record for the most victories through the first 9 games of a season. Jack Hughes, Dougie Hamilton, Dawson Mercer, and Stephen Neeson scored for New Jersey. Jacob Markstrom had 34 saves. Up next for New Jersey, they'll be at San Jose tomorrow night. And on the diamond, the Blue Jays bested the Dodgers 6-2 Game 4 of the World Series last night. That series is now knotted at 2 games apiece. It's a good one here. Game 5 tonight at 8 p.m. from Los Angeles once again. That's your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49 up to Harlem, where cops continue to investigate the gruesome discovery of a woman's body stuffed in a plastic bag. It was found on a sidewalk in East Harlem. This was East 124th Street and Park Avenue about 6:30 on Monday evening under a pile of cardboard boxes. Police say the victim appears to be a woman in her late 20s. She was found naked with trauma to her head. They haven't released the victim's identity, but people in the area say they know this woman. They think it's this homeless woman who had been on the streets and who they'd been trying to convince to come off the streets.
She was a sweetheart, very loving, caring young lady. Had a story, had her situation. She was living in the streets for I've known her for about a year now, going on a year. This winter would be a year. Last winter, I would bring her clothing, food, blankets from my home and offer her services to get into a program. And she would always say, one day, and that I was her guardian angel. Thank you.
Yeah, the medical examiner going to determine that woman's cause of death. A growing number of federal workers are missing paychecks now due to the government shutdown, including those who keep our airports running. The USDA is warning that SNAP benefits, too, are going to run out the end of the week. So yesterday, for those TSA workers who are missing their first paycheck now, a food bank came actually to Newark Airport to hand out food to those TSA workers. And it was a food distribution event that was sponsored by a local supermarket and by a food bank. And boy, did a lot of people who work at the airport show up to this
This
thing.
is very specific to the shutdown. So, I mean, of course, if a federal worker had food insecurity in their lives, they could come to one of our pantries. But a focused effort like this is very much due to the fact that they are now missing paychecks.
Yeah, Community Food Bank of New Jersey gave out fresh produce, pantry items as federal workers braced to miss that first full paycheck due to the government shutdown. So they brought 3 tractor trailers full of food at the airport for a 4-hour distribution event. Now, these are the people, again, who are guarding the airport, now waiting in line to get meals.
I mean, we had people telling us they were getting eviction notices, that they were really not going to be able to pay their utilities. So we quickly got this into action, really, in just a matter of days.
And that taking place as Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy visited LaGuardia yesterday, talking about the impact of government shutdown, with air traffic controllers also missing their first full paycheck. He says this is the beginning of a painful time for those folks.
They do really important work for our country, and they need to show up. but I'm not going to lie to anybody to not say that they're not feeling the stress. And this is day one. And day two gets harder. Day three is harder after that as expenses continue to roll.
Now, air traffic controllers, they had been receiving partial paychecks to this point, but that's not the case now. Duffy says he does believe it still remains safe to fly, and he says if staffing levels do drop, because some of these workers have been calling out sick, it'll lead to delays and possible cancellations. And he says if it gets worse than that, of course, he said that'll be a huge problem. 552. Renovations at a major New York City subway hub complete now following a $700 million makeover. The busy Grand Central 42nd Street subway station has new turnstiles, escalators, elevator, 24/7 customer service desk. Here's the New York City Transit president talking about all that's been done.
There's nothing more important to me as president than improving upon safety and service, and this project improves both.
Yeah, so I haven't seen this yet, but people are raving about it. There's also more floor space and widened staircases. About 400,000 people use that station every single day. On the Upper West Side, they're yelling, "Not in my backyard." It's over another proposed high-rise building there.
The old Metro Theater at Broadway and 99th Street appears to be getting a second act. It's being revived as the Uptown Film Center. The Times says plans call for 5 theaters of 185 seats down to 45 to blend nostalgia with modern culture. The nonprofit Upper West Side Cinema Center has funds and is raising the rest. Old movie theaters have an appeal. A Connecticut attorney made his new career saving old movie theaters for new uses. Joe Connolly, 77 WABC News.
Well, that's obviously a story about an old movie theater becoming new again. We'll have more on the opposition to that Upper West Side building coming up after 6 o'clock. Tuesday marked exactly 3 months since the horrific shooting at 345 Park Avenue in Midtown Manhattan, and the NFL is going to make sure the victims and the families left behind were not forgotten. Among them, of course, was the NYPD detective Dadarul Islam, who received a special gift, his kids, in the form of a scholarship. They'll help pay for their education going forward. The NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, presenting the sons of that fallen detective Islam. He was in the lobby that day, shot and killed by the gunman, with scholarship for their future. Here he was talking about it yesterday.
I hope that Detective Islam will be proud of the work that we're all doing together today to take care of his family, and know that we're proud of him and proud of the work that he did.
Islam was killed during the mass shooting at 345 Park. The building is home to the NFL offices. In fact, the gunman was trying to get to those NFL offices. He went to the wrong floor. Islam was assigned to the 47th precinct, but was working security detail in the lobby to make extra money. The 36-year-old, a father of 3 boys, the youngest was born after his death, actually. At the time, he was working an overtime shift. Here's his brother-in-law, who's thankful to the NFL. They're going to help pay for the 3 kids' education.
She was thinking about good education system for the kids. Now NFL stood up for the support for the kids. That means a lot to the family.
Yeah, so where these kids attend school, that's up to them. But it was interesting to hear one of the kids, the oldest one, he looks like maybe 5 or 6 at most, says he wants to be a cop just like his dad.
When I grow up and when I'm a police officer, I can't wait to be a detective.
Yeah, the timing of yesterday's award, no coincidence. October 28th, yesterday was National First Responders Day.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?